So, there have been more mass shootings in the US and more attempts at explaining the causes and how to fix this epidemic. I'm not going to spend too long on this because I don't feel the need to give an essay-long argument to convince others who wouldn't be able to be convinced otherwise, and since some common sense and logic should be all someone needs to see the underlying issues of gun violence. I have a master's degree. I could easily make a long argument with tons of supporting evidence and examples and studies and detailed comparisons, but that can also be boring. Plus, I want to get through this and get back to playing some video games. Mainly Destiny 2 so I can shoot some aliens and grind for some new guns, so I'm not going to do that. And I'm sure many people listening to this already know the root causes of this issue without me having to explain. But since I have a video game channel, video game website, and gaming podcast, and since I love playing video games, particularly shooters, I feel like I should say something about this. During one of his addresses to the El Paso and Dayton massacres, and during plenty of other similar past events, the President of the United States mentioned stopping the glorification of violence in society, and he didn't target movies or books or TV shows, he blamed video games. What was one of the main causes of these evil acts? Video games. The retired president of Nintendo, Reggie Fils-Aimé, tweeted, "When the ill-informed are being critical of the gaming industry and community, this is a very powerful story. The facts are that countries with high per capita gaming revenue have fewer gun shooting deaths, except the US, where 4% of the population owns 43% of the guns." He also tweeted a chart from Vox about the correlation between video game revenue and violent gun deaths. South Korea has the highest video game revenue and Japan has the lowest, but they have some of the lowest amount of gun deaths. The USA is third for video game revenue, but has one of the highest rates of violent gun deaths. As can be seen here, there is no correlation to video game consumption and mass gun violence. IGN even published a video titled, "Every country has video games, only one has a mass shooter problem." The video cites the Gun Violence Archive, and a tweet of that data by Keith Edwards compiled the number of 2019 mass shootings of various countries, with the United States having 249 and other countries having near zero. For the proponents who blame video games as the cause of mass shootings, who knows if it's politics or ignorance or hatred or money or selfishness or just a lack of understanding cause and effect that help them reach that conclusion. Not only can these notions ruin video games, but it's also disrespectful to the people who lived through these mass shootings by ignoring the main causes. There are also satirical shows like South Park that have made some very good points about gun violence in certain episodes. I refuse to believe that being really old is the reason that video games are being used as a scapegoat, because there are plenty of really old people who aren't blaming video games and are choosing to go after the root causes, such as mental health, general public safety, not stopping these events before they happen, weapons being in the hands of the wrong people, and deadly guns being too easily accessible for the general public. Then there are smaller causes like a lack of community and family and relationships and friendships that can cause this, or just being surrounded by things or people that exacerbate the causes of gun violence. These mass shootings happen because these people who were once normal human beings started to see other human beings as other. They categorize them as other. Think about toxicity on the internet. I'm sure it's easy to think of one example, unfortunately. These toxic people do the same thing, and when they distance themselves from others, it makes it easier for them to do these things. When it all comes down to it, it's really all about negative energy and positive energy. When you have negative energy, you spread negative energy. When someone on the internet is being overtly negative and toxic, they are basically screaming to the world, "I'm miserable! I want to make other people miserable too!" When you have positive energy, you spread positive energy around. Because when people have negative energy like frustration or fear or anger or hate or suffering or don't care about other people's feelings because they're so centered on themselves, they'll spread all that bad stuff around. Our society right now is also facing a general lack of empathy. Conversely, when you have happiness and joy and love and smiles and are just abundant with so many good kinds of emotions, you'll spread all that around. So, gamers are speaking up because they do not want the video game community as a scapegoat for this issue. They do not want these mass shootings or ignorance or politics to ruin video games. The United States of America is supposedly one of the best countries on earth. or that's something Americans like to say. Unfortunately, there are certain people and situations and events that make it look bad, and if we are the best country on earth, I'm confident we can solve this problem and can stop using video games as a scapegoat. Your body is only as good as what's inside it, your house is only as good as what's inside it, your school and workplace is only as good as what's inside it, your country is only as good as what's inside it, your internet is only as good as what's inside it, and your video games are only as good as what's inside it. I'm talking about the people. Your environment is only as good as the people in it. If video games cause violence, why don't we see teens spontaneously building all over the place from playing so much Fortnite? I would love to see teenagers just randomly building stuff all over the place. With all the sport games people play, why aren't these people actually going out and playing sports? Why aren't they becoming sport professionals? Real guns are boring. Gamers like guns with fun perks and abilities, like Destiny 2's Bad Juju's String of Curses, where kills refill the magazine, increase damage for a short duration, and grant super energy based on the strength of String of Curses. Fires full auto. The quote attached to the gun from Toland to Shattered, "If you believe your weapon wants to end all existence, then so it will." That quote applies to all guns, not just Bad Juju. Gamers want guns like in Borderlands 3 that grow legs and start shooting at their enemies and run up to them and blow up. Gamers just want to have fun playing video games. If people are going out and shooting because of video games, then maybe they played a really bad video game. Because if it were a good video game, they would still be playing that video game instead of going out and shooting people. If our country cannot solve this problem, we'll be having this conversation again for years and years, for the rest of our lives. If you look throughout history, that probably will be the case, unless something changes. At the very least, I can make one good video or podcast that can be referenced in the future about this issue, and I won't have to do it again, hopefully. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to have some fun and play some video games. I can't wait for Destiny 2 Shadowkeep in Borderlands 3.